Finland is an incredible and resilient country, and today, November 30th, marks a day of remembrance for the bravery and the relentlessness of the Finnish as they resisted the Soviet invasion during the Winter War. During the beginning of World War II, Finland declared itself neutral because it was worried that the Soviet Union was going to try to come in and steal their territory. And funny thing is, the Soviet Union was afraid that Finland could eventually be used as a base to launch attacks into their country. It's ironic because Finland is now in NATO, and yeah, they will be hosting bases and all kinds of weaponry that can be aimed directly into Russia. But that's besides the point. Now, the Soviets thought that they would easily be able to take out Finland because, again, they're a country with a population of 170 million people, while the Finns only had 4 million people. So they thought maybe in 2 weeks tops, they would be able to take all of Finland, but that is not what happened. The Soviet Union expected to lose a few thousand troops at most, but they ended up losing 200,000 to just death, while the other 300,000 were too injured to continue fighting in the war. They also lost over 4,000 tanks, hundreds of armored cars, mainly because of the Finnish throwing Molotov cocktails. I'm sure the wonderful Finnish people will agree with me that Simo Häyhä, hopefully I'm saying his name somewhat correctly, set the standard for what the Finns should be. I mean, everyone talks about him because, he was a sniper who killed 500 Soviets during the war, but he wasn't the only guy. He was just the mold of Finnish resistance. Now, it's true, tragically, after 3 months, the Soviet Union was able to revamp and regroup when they realized how poorly they underestimated the Finnish military, and they started to send more waves of tanks and other military equipment into Finland, and the Finns eventually surrendered simply because they ran out of bullets. But the Soviets realized that they could not possibly take all of Finland because it would take so many resources from the Soviet military that they would not be able to withstand an attack from any of their potential enemies because of how heavily invested they would have to be in subduing the Finnish population. So they took 3 pieces of land, about 15% of Finnish territory. But Finland was not conquered. Like I said, it's quite ironic because the Soviet Union's greatest fears have come to light with a very weakened Russia, but Finland as a part of the strongest military alliance on the planet. And now Russia has most of its northern, or all of its northern border as part of the NATO alliance. And a lot has absolutely changed for the two countries. Russia is now a weak shell compared to what it was during the Soviet Union, especially during World War II, while Finland is much more industrialized, much more modernized, and they have a very advanced society. They are one of the top cybersecurity centers in the world. And while Russia has had to deal with so many of its own problems, especially during the fall of communism in the 1990s and trying to pick up the pieces of its fragmented society, and of course, dealing with its losing of the Ukraine war, Finland has strictly been getting itself ready to face an invasion against Russia for decades. And I know a lot of people get mad because Finland sided with the Germans during World War II, but I'll say this as someone whose grandfather was in one of those special summer camps and whose father was rounded up to be shot by the Germans. Finland, just like Ukraine and a whole bunch of Eastern Bloc countries, had a choice. They either side with the Germans, who would potentially liberate their country, or so they thought, or side with the Soviets, who already invaded, conquered, subjugated, and butchered their people. Who do you think these people are going to side with? And I would guarantee you this, if the Soviet Union respected Finland's neutrality during World War II, Finland never would have sided with the Germans. But that didn't happen, so the Finnish had to show the rest of the world that they were the closest thing to Spartans on the planet. They had their own 300 moment, like the Battle of Thermopylae, but, on November 30th, 1939. Now, while the Battle of Thermopylae only had 3 days of combat, the Winter War had 3 months of it. Go Finland, you guys are amazing and badass, and thank goodness the world has you and NATO has you on their side. Thanks for watching.